So, in the original game, Mayor Domino was just this guy that you ran across in the archives who had a chip on his shoulder about being sidelined by Shinra, but there was never any real context for this. You just talked to him, he decided to help you with a weird riddle puzzle, and then you never saw or heard of him again for the rest of the game. Here they decided to tie Mayor Domino in with the compilation of Final Fantasy VII version of Avalanche. That is a bigger organization than just a handful of ragtag activists that we met in the original game. So here, Mayor Domino is Avalanche's man on the inside, and he's the entire reason that Avalanche was able to make it as far as they do in infiltrating headquarters.
So he's supposed to be the mayor of Midgar.
He's supposed to be the mayor of Midgar, yeah, but
it's a mostly ceremonial position because Shinra actually controls everything.
Yeah, which he himself points out. It does make me wonder exactly what kind of power does he have inside the company if he's able to be Avalanche's inside
Well,
man.
he doesn't have, any formal power in the decision-making process, but he is inside the building and he has access to the computers. And clearly, he has gained more access to the computers than they intended him to have, because from his office in the library, he is able to erase security footage and replace it with, totally innocent-looking empty footage of business as usual. So, it's possible that, after Domino made contact with Avalanche, they helped him gain this kind of control over the computer systems. That seems more plausible than him gaining it on his own. But he also has robots around the library that say things like Mayor Explosive or Mako Explosive. And it's all just kind of a reference to the original puzzle from the original game, I think. Where
meanwhile, I'm just poking it, just can you please just give me my elemental material? I don't have all day.
You already have 2. What more do you need? I have 3 party members.
I can't always use. There's 3 party members exactly. 4 if you're including Barrett.
Wait, why is Barrett the odd man out?
Ooh, he's huge, so he counts as 2.
Oh, that's rude.
No, he's big.
Yeah, Rude we saw earlier.
So,
also, I love these bookcase, trapdoor things where it's good thing no one ever touches the one book that leads there. It's not pure accident or coincidence.
Well, no one.
See, I wonder what you would title that book to make it so that nobody would ever touch it. Do you title it something like Weird Furry Porn? Because I feel like that's just as much likely to get someone to touch it.
A history of renal disease.
Fake books and hidden safes in bookcases are a real thing in the real world, but it's generally just visual camouflage. You make it that way so that someone who takes a cursory glance around the room doesn't see what's hidden behind it.
Yeah, but but that's what they're getting at. Is what would you label the fake book so people wouldn't even get the idea of just touching it to activate the secret compartment?
Something that blends in with the rest of the books you have. If you have encyclopedias, make it look like an encyclopedia volume. The point is.
Yeah, I would say the safest choice is Webster's dictionary or some other shit.
I think a lot of the fake book products that you can actually buy have the problem of not looking like anything in particular that's copyrighted. You know what? I'm going to look this up on Amazon because I know for a fact that you can buy these things on Amazon because I've seen them while I was working at Amazon. Now, let's see.
I remember my folks used to have one of those fake bookshelves. The problem is, it was I think it was only a part of a larger set and individually it just sort of stuck out. Because they're put inside these small boxes.
So you can make them look like old books that aren't copyrighted. There's A Tale of Two Cities. There's Treasure Island. There's Treasure Island is probably most ironic.
I don't know. I'd be pretty suspicious of someone who willingly puts Dickens on their shelf.
I have some Charles Dickens stuff.
Yeah.
I have some Charles Dickens stuff. Come on.
Okay, so then we all know that Lewis has a secret compartment in his bookcase that leads to his underground treasure chamber.
No, it's actually Oh, there's Pride and Prejudice. But like, there was this Easton Press. Have you ever heard of Easton Press?
Yes.
So my grandmother, years and years and years ago, subscribed me to an Easton Press set of books called "The 100 Greatest Books of All Time," which would would send you one fancy leather book with gold trim every month for 100 months, presumably. And I got 6 books in before she couldn't afford to keep doing it anymore. So I have Moby Dick, which was the first one, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Great Expectations, Huckleberry Finn, Faust, and, of all things, She Stoops to Conquer.
Wait, they made a book about the squirrel?
What?
Conquer.
Oh, okay, never mind.
No. It's a play, apparently. I've never actually read it. It's just been sitting on my shelf because it happened to be one of the ones I got. But, yeah. I've been meaning to resubscribe to that and get the whole series, but, like, that's something that I'll probably only be able to afford to do when I'm 65 or something.
No, if anything, it'll get harder. Don't wait.
Buy now. Call 1-800-BODY-BODY-BODY-BODY.
I've been wanting to get certain Easton Press books at the very least. Like, their Tolkien books are really mouth-wateringly awesome looking. Like, we're talking painted illustrations and really nice cover designs.
So it's like Easton Press books for bookworms, or kind of like video junkies investing in CRTs.
Yeah, kind of.
I like how they kept a stupid line.
What the hell is up with this guy's voice, which makes him sound like he's supposed to be from a 1950s radio show?
He's a Monopoly guy. He wants you to pass go and collect $200. Or 200 gil, anyway.
With gusto, then you found your man. You got it?
If it's going by 200, if it's going by like Japanese, conversion rates, would that not be, like 20,000 gil pass go?
It'd be, well, hold on, what's $200 in yen?
20,000.
Generally speaking, yeah,
20,000?
the most basic rule of thumb is just move the decimal point right 2 places.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
like...
you
Okay,
assume
so
1 yen
20,000.
is about a cent, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not completely accurate, but it gives you a rough ball.
That's why you see, like, $500 burgers or something in Pokemon.
Yeah, that's why you get the $300 can of lemonade.
Because it's actually $3. But, like, okay.
Which is still an expensive can of
Which,
lemonade.
I was gonna say,
Well,
I was
yeah.
gonna say that's still fucking
Yeah,
expensive.
but you know that there are vending machines in the real world that would sell you a $2 bottle of soda for $3. It's a thing that happens.
I always kind of hoped there was like an ATM though. Like, it's like I want to withdraw $20. I got to just pay the $20,000 fee.
Okay.
Also, this guy randomly has a weapon.
So being able to pay 10,000 gil or something to the mayor's assistant for a hint was something that you could do in the original game, so they kept it here. But the hint he gives you is so, like, pointless that they decided to just give you a weapon for your trouble instead. So this is where you get Barrett's Wrecking Ball. It's a little funny that Hart here, this skinny old guy, was carrying around the Wrecking Ball the entire time.
No,
The EKG cannon. That's even funnier. I thought this was... the Wrecking Ball is what you buy from the shop. Okay, EKG cannon is what you get here. And that's good, because it's about time that Barrett's switched back to long range anyway.
Its accuracy is dependent on the wielder's emotional state.
What?
Does that mean that it goes up or down if you get sadder, gladder, mad, or bad?
What?
I
He was
was
trying to keep a rhyming convention going.
The EKG's description says that the accuracy is dependent on the wielder's emotional state.
yeah, but isn't there also like sad and angry emotions and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, the status effects. That might actually have something to do with it.
Here, drink this tranquilizer. Why?
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, the EKG cannon is Barrett's critical hit weapon, so it's a good weapon to stick with. Considering, like,
How many bullets he has fly out?
Yeah,
at any given time,
Barrett's
yes.
rate of attack is the fastest of the bunch, so his critical hit checks happen more often. Basically, the faster a character attacks, the more you want to lean into their critical hit rate. So critical hit rate is good for Tifa and Barrett, not so much for Aerith and Cloud. You could still get some good critical hit stuff out of Aerith and Cloud if you wanted to, but it's not going to make as much of a difference as it is for these other two characters. I imagine Yuffie is also going to be a good character to invest in critical hit rate with. But we'll see whenever I can get a PS5 10 years from now.
Well, they said that they were going to still have shortages into 2022, so...
Well, everyone's going to have shortages still, considering all the chip problems everyone's having.
Man, it's almost like we shouldn't be having so many computers sitting around saying that JPEGs are owned by certain people when they're not.
Yeah. Stop investing in stupid speculative cryptocurrency stuff and let the rest of us live
I
our
just
lives.
want bad crypto ads to stop being auto-targeted to me. How many times?
They're everywhere now.
How many times do I have to tweet, I don't like this crap, or click the I don't think this is good button before Google decides, oh, wait, maybe he doesn't want to see this.
It will never go away.
Yeah, but, like...
And that's not me being overly cynical. I'm just being real. It's never going to go away.
But I don't want to have it.
Maybe you should just invest in cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
Ted.
then they win.
Embrace madness.
Cryptocurrency is clearly the wave of the future. That's why the only thing anyone cares about it for is how much actual money they can get by selling it.
It's just another form of stocks.
Yeah, I know.
That's all it is.
Stunk.
Yeah, stocks that unfortunately drive up the price of everything computer related.
When cryptocurrency first appeared, people were talking it up like it would be like the new wave of actual currency, you know? Like we were trying to get some Republic credits system going. But no.
Yeah, that's how you pay for your taxi cabs in Back to the Future too. You just like press a button on the tablet. There you go. You just injected them with some cryptocurrency.
We don't need cryptocurrency for electronic payments to be a thing. All we need is debit cards, and we have those. So
Remember,
yeah.
there was a really great meme I saw that was actually Final Fantasy VII related. How about that? Where Barrett goes, the planet's dying, Cloud, and these crypto fuckers keep on wanting to burn it up for some NFTs.
I did see that.
The really annoying thing about Bitcoin mining, though, is that because of the way it works, the result is that the value of a single Bitcoin has been driven up so ridiculously, redonkulously high relative to actual currency that it has become impractical as an actual currency. Like,
You're telling me this bubble's gonna burst?
yeah, I'm gonna laugh when it does. Voldemort laugh, like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's never gonna get old. Thank you, Ray Fiennes.
No, it's not.
All right, so the EKG cannon, good weapon. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stick with it to the end of the game, but because like, okay, Barrett's a good mage, and having a weapon that has both a good critical hit rate for his physical attacks and a high magic attack for his spell casting, that's good. It does actually work pretty well for his playstyle. At the same time, I don't find myself casting magic too often as Barrett, and a lot of the good healing options that you might want to stick on Barrett aren't necessarily tied to his magic stat. So,
Isn't his magic stat also pretty bad?
I don't know about that. I haven't actually checked what his magic stat looks like in this game. I don't remember his magic stat being particularly good in the original, but the stats weren't so divergent from each other that it made a whole lot of difference in the original game.
in the original game, while you could, this was something I really liked about 7 that Final Fantasy VI wasn't as good about, because Final Fantasy VII does have a similar thing to Final Fantasy VI in that basically anybody can learn any spell if you put in enough time. But in Final Fantasy VI, it very much kind of felt like everybody could do everything, whereas in 7, the characters are different enough in that, yeah, you can get Barret or Cid to learn any spell in the game, but like it's not worth the time usually to do so.
The other thing, though, was that if you wanted a character to be a magic user and you piled on a lot of magic and summon materia, you were effectively driving up their magic stat by a certain percentage and driving down their physical skills by a certain percentage as well. So, you were tweaking their stats to your purpose by leading their materia setup in a certain direction.
Which I think was had greater emphasis in 7 compared to 6, because 6 did have the Esper stat growths that you got as a one-time level up bonus, but that was it.
You'd have to intentionally grind that stuff, and it was time-consuming, and the game wasn't really difficult enough to warrant that sort of time commitment.
No. And grind is putting it in a different way, because you can't repeatedly get those stat buffs. It's one and done.
No, you would get them every time you leveled up while using a certain magicite, is how it worked.
No, I'm pretty sure you only get it one time as a level up bonus.
So we're just going to ignore Hojo here.
No, Hojo's being Hojo.
You're just talking about cryptocurrency.
So,
Hojo absolutely has several $1,000s saved in Dogecoin.
He owns every Shinra NFT.
he's ranting at Aerith here about how much he's invested and how much she should invest too. This is a perfect visual metaphor for how I feel in the face of Bitcoin advertisement. But like, okay. Back to what I was saying though. In Final Fantasy VI, I'm pretty sure the way it worked was that while you had a specific magicite equipped to a character, when that character leveled up, they would gain the stat bonus. So what a lot of people would do was they would shift their magicite around. They would like watch very carefully when a character was going to level up, and then they would shift their magicite around so that the character would gain the specific stat they wanted from the specific magicite. And they would do this at every level up, so they would drive up the particular stats they wanted to increase. But that's such a weird micromanagey way of handling it that I don't really think it's worth bothering with, to be honest.
It's with 6, some characters are also just more statistically inclined to be better at things than other characters, which again I feel 7 does a slightly better job emphasizing, but 6 you just have to know that, Terra. So I mean, it's kind of obvious with Terra and Celeste, but lo and behold, the best magic user is the 10-year-old girl that draws stuff.
Yeah, Realm being the highest magic stat user was always kind of a weird.
Well, I mean, it was pretty obvious whenever somebody was magic or not magic, really.
Well, I mean, we have 2 characters who are specifically like an Esper girl and a magical knight, and the best magic stat user is neither of them. It's the random little girl who has no plot relevance whatsoever.
Well, I think no, it has more to do with the lore behind her, because she's Shadow's kid, right? But I'm always assuming Realm was conceived in Thamaza, which are descendants of mage warriors, like ancient magic users. So I always assumed that was what they were going with.
I need to play Final Fantasy VI again soon.
This is a great game. We should play 6.
Yeah, it's fine.
Ted loves that blue magic.
Are you going to knock over every chair in the lobby?
I'm not going to, but
he's losing his
Tifa
mind.
and Barret are sure going to try, because their pathfinding just doesn't account for the furniture.
Wait, they left the Starbucks open while there's an invasion going on in the tower? What?
They don't know about the invasion in the tower yet.
But they're very clear. Look, this guy's carrying around a sword in the building.
No, but he's wearing a soldier uniform.
Yeah, he is wearing a soldier
Dude,
uniform.
we won't get to it this part, but like 2 Shinra soldiers actually recognize Cloud. And like,
Oh yeah.
and because Cloud used to be one of them, they're like, oh hey, I remember this guy. We went through training together.
You're still alive, huh?
It's so at this point they don't know that there's they don't know that there's intruders in the building yet. The first inkling that they
Barrett, don't make a scene.
the first inkling that they get that there are intruders in the building is when Palmer warns the other directors of Sephiroth, but they don't believe
And the
him.
guy with a gun for an arm isn't a worry for anybody?
I mean, they're with the guy who's a soldier, so.
Could be just an experimental Shinra soldier. Yeah.
Look, the surest way to make yourself seem like you belong somewhere is to just be confident and not look shifty.
I gotta say though, the virtual Coliseum, awfully fucking strange placement here, next to the gift shop and the Starbucks and the second floor
If you
below.
talk to the NPCs, it's implied that like the regular Shinra executives use the VR training module for fun. So, I mean, there's definitely more than one in the building. The one we see Zack using in Crisis Core is in a completely different place.
Yeah, well, I always figured that was in more of a confidential area.
So it seems like this one was just set up for like shits and giggles. Like people could use it during their off hours to.
Hey kids, want to fight a water deity?
It's like the virtual reality video game machine in Star Ocean. Like no joke.
It was laser tag.
Like no joke. In Star Ocean, Till the End of Time, which is a good game by the way. Get it. The combat tutorial happens in a video game system. Like you go. It's the most ironic goddamn thing, okay? Fate and his anime best friend girl, I forget her name, they go and he cajoles her into playing the game with him. And she makes the most ironic goddamn statement about how Fate is a nerd, but it's like the most physical activity either of them have ever had in their goddamn lives or something. I need to play that game again too. Damn. I have like almost all of the Star Ocean games that you can get on PS4 right now, and I haven't played any of them on that system yet. They actually re-released the PSP re-releases of 1 and 2, I think. Or at least First Departure. Which was a remake of the first Star Ocean, I think. They actually re-released that on PS4, and I'm like, why couldn't you do that for Final Fantasy 1 and 2?
Too many RPGs, too little time, man.
What's the... I still need to get the newest one. What's it called? Integrity and Faithlessness? What a title.
Yeah, that sounds like a Square Enix title. All right.
Well, I mean, like, the other Star Ocean games are called First Departure, Till the End of Time, The Last Hope, and then the new one is called Integrity and Faithlessness, and it's like, bleh, where did you get that title from for this series of all games? Anyway, you can buy, like, the best or second best armor in the game at this shop for some reason. So...
You work here? I don't recognize you.
Don't go too wild buying armor here, though, because you can get one copy of the 3 best armors in the game from the VR challenges here after you complete the mandatory one.
Trust you with this key card, I need to see what you can actually do.
Say what?
The best armors in the game, though, are... Okay, you have 2 armors that only have 3 materia slots. And these armors are the one that's geared toward physical defense and the one that's geared toward magical defense. There are also 2 other armors that have no materia slots whatsoever, but have even better physical defense, and even better magical defense. Then there's the best armor in the game that has 4 materia slots, which doesn't have, like, nearly as good stats as the other ones, but 4 materia slots, which is the most that you're ever going to get.
Yeah, you're trading in defense for variability, basically.
Yeah. Personally, my playstyle leans toward variability, so I prefer the armor with more materia slots. But it's interesting to note that the best you'll ever get as far as armor materia slots go in Episode 1 is 1 linked pair and 2 solitary slots.
Wait, are we supposed to be trying to save Eris right now?
Yeah, but this
Yeah,
is...
so we need to prove our
yeah,
Okay. I thought we were doing side quest pull.
Mayor. Well, we will be doing side quest bowl soon enough, but
okay.
Mayor Domino's contact wants to make sure that we won't get ourselves killed the moment we go up to the next floor. So he's putting us through a single battle VR mission against 2 sweepers, or cutters rather, because those are totally different from sweepers. Man, it's weird that the sweeper is the only enemy that has recolor variants. No, I tell a lie. The Shinra soldiers do have their elite versions that are a bit more difficult to take down.
Recolors aren't really something that bothers me in an RPG as long as they aren't egregious.
Well, in a turn-based RPG, they make a bit more sense, but like for most of this game, what Final Fantasy VII Remake does instead is it scales up the enemies based on what part of the story you're in or what difficulty you're playing.
Well, I would say, to go back to what you said earlier, it being turn-based has nothing to do with it. It was a limitation thing at first, and then at some point it just became tradition, which is why I don't think anybody really bothers, and is anybody really bothered by
Well,
it.
this is the thing about RPGs in that you don't want to just be fighting new enemies all the time. Like, for example, imagine a Mario game where after World 4, you just never saw a Goomba ever again. It wouldn't feel right. There's a reason to keep earlier enemies around because you can make battles interesting and whatnot. The difference with an RPG is that if you keep Area 1 enemies in when you're in Area 5, they just don't stand a chance. So if you recolor them and buff up their stats, you have a chance to reuse the same strategies against them. And then also they're still relevant to fight because they're not, way too easy for that point in the game. So I'm totally fine with recolors being in the game. It's just a matter of how often do you see the same enemies recolored.
My argument for that, and let me try to find the words here, is that the reason. So, for what I understand, what you're saying is that if a recolored enemy, you approach one.
Yeah.
And you kind of get the idea, the mentality that you can maybe approach it the same way you got the other enemies before. It's
Yes.
only for you to realize it doesn't exactly work. How is that any different from you doing new things with a completely new enemy? The time spent experimenting, seeing what works.
Well, that's generally how you know a game is well designed, because if you fight, let's say, the slimes in the first area, they're blue and they're weak to fire. And if you go to Area 6 and suddenly they're not weak to fire and they're weak to air and there's no real reason for it, then yes, I would say there's no real reason for that to not just be a different enemy. But I'd say if a game is done well, they function similarly. Either their attacks are similar, they've got similar weaknesses, maybe it's a small twist on what they did before. Like, I think Paper Mario does a really good job with this. Like, whenever you see a recolor of an enemy in Paper Mario, they usually function the same way, only maybe they have a new attack, maybe they're, susceptible to something different, or whatever.
The real reason that it became such a thing in video game RPGs in particular is because of the way video game RPG power scaling works compared to pen and paper RPGs, where the power scaling is generally not so wide. When you reach level 2, you're in a pen and paper RPG. When you reach level 2, your accuracy doesn't shoot through the roof all of a sudden. So, and neither does your attack damage output. You generally don't get like a massive damage boost until you've leveled up several times and gained some additional strength stat that gives you a +1 accuracy and damage roll. It's not a huge difference. But in video game RPGs, every time you level up, like all of your stats increase all at once, and the calculations get skewed in your favor. Like,
And this is exasperated in games like Final Fantasy that use huge numbers.
yes. So like very, very quickly the older enemies become not just obsolete, but like you get to the point where you know how in Fire Emblem Three Houses, a lot of the time an enemy will attack you, and a lot of the time you'll just see no damage. Like they parry a fireball with their bare hands. It gets to that point a lot of the time, and you have to replace the enemies like straight out, or else scale them up. And that's why they have to bring in recolors a lot of the time, because you need to have enemy soldiers for your evil empire throughout the entire game, but the enemy soldiers you were fighting at the beginning of the game no longer work.
Yeah, and also, you know, if you want to fight, like, if you're on the second mountain dungeon later in the game, and you want to fight a bird enemy, that's, you know, you want it to mostly have the same strategy on how you're supposed to beat it, only you need to use level 3 magic instead of level 1 magic. You know, making it a recolor to signify, hey, this is probably the same idea here, makes sense. Again, there are plenty of bad RPGs where you fight, you know, the bird in Area 1, and then suddenly the bird in Area 4 is weak to fire and does earthquake attacks. And it's like, why are you doing this? It's because they want...
They cause you mean names, too.
Yeah, it's like they just didn't have another sprite, so they just reused the bird sprite. But, you know,
Yeah.
that's just game development.